Okay. Welcome to the HL7 Australia Fire Connectathon track for AU patient summary kickoff. As you know, the Connectathon is scheduled for the 9th and 10th of December next week, being held in Melbourne at the Melbourne Connect venue, which is part of the Melbourne University at Swanston Street. Just like to start with an acknowledgement of country. HL7 Australia acknowledges and pays respects to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of Australia and the continuation of culture, spiritual, and educational practices of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples. I'm Heath Frankel. I'm one of the track leads. We've got Ricardo on the call as well as one of my other co-leads, and Tim Panaho, also from the digital agency, will also be assisting us next week, but unable to attend today at this time. Um, we're just having a quick agenda. We're just going to go through what is the track description, goals, breakouts, some tools that we've got available, and just looking to get something understanding of what you would like to get out of the Connectathon. Just like to kick off with a quick minty. So if I start this off, if you can join, use that QR code or just go to menti.com and enter this code 860633706. And I've got just a couple of questions there that I'll kick off in a moment, giving some people some time. Actually, think I'm able to put the QR code up as well. So just interested to see if you've got have attended previously, any first timers on the call. If you've been to any sparked testing events in the past. Or at least an AUPS call of two or three or many. Okay, so I might just move on. It looks like that's stabilized. 10 hour 11 people have voted. Just how well you know fire. You're just getting started with fire as a fire starter, or whether you're getting quite familiar with it, or an absolute expert as a fire chief.
Apologies, Heath. Is it okay if you say the Menti number again?
86063706. Up the
It's
top
actually
here.
showing on the top of the screen there. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Even the people on the call, I'm surprised we haven't got some fire chiefs, but anyway, we're all a bit
Real modest.
very modest, yes. All right, we'll get back to the slides, so thank you for that. Um, okay, so the AU patient summary track is really, I guess, from a Spark perspective, we're looking to test the implementation guide and get some participants to demonstrate the generation and sharing of and viewing of patient summaries between their systems. And have a bit of an opportunity for those that are new to coming to the Connectathons or new to the patient summary, how that we can generate and access um, patient summaries. And you don't necessarily need to have any development tools as such to get started with these things, just to get familiar with how FHIR works and what does a patient summary look like, etc. We've got some, you can just use some uh, basic tools, things like Postman, etc. So you don't need to have a full functional application. You can build something on the fly if you do have a dev environment, if you're that way inclined, or if you just want to have a play with some web requests, we can do that as well. So the goals of our track is to validate the patient summary that we're producing in our systems. Now we've got a tool called Inferno that will help use that or do that. So if you've got a system that's generating patient summaries, you can then test those patient summaries through using that test suite. And then we're also looking to exchange them between systems as well. So whether they're consuming them or viewing them. And from a Spark perspective, what we're actually trying to do is capture the amount of capability that the participants have across the various implementation guide components, um, and whether you're producing a patient summary or consuming them. And the whole point of this is that of getting that test coverage from vendors is that we're actually trying to progress the maturity level of the implementation guide as well. So those that are unfamiliar with sort of the implementation guide processes, there is a well-defined maturity model, and we need to progress through those maturity levels to get to a point of actually calling the implementation guide a standard that we can actually use for in our implementations. So it's an STU, so standard for trial use is the first level, and I believe we have to get to AFMM2 to be able to do that. So that's our goal. And to do that, we need to have 3 independent systems developed that are covering 80% of the core data elements in that implementation guide. So from a Spark perspective, that's why we're holding this track for obviously you as vendors to come along and progress your development in that. But from the Spark perspective, we're looking to get that data, the data elements that you're actually supporting, so that we can feed that into the IG maturity processes. And just generally, we're looking to share experiences amongst ourselves. And we've got a session called Hot Topics as a breakout where we can go and get into some more meaty discussions about the implementation of the patient summary. So day one on the Tuesday the 9th is basically going to look a bit like this. We kick off with registrations at 8:30 in the morning. 9 o'clock, we have our acknowledgement of country, and then we start to move into our track areas where we start to introduce ourselves amongst for those in the room, and then we start to test and connect. There's after lunch, we've got a breakout session that Brett has organized with me to assist. And we're going to look at how we can actually define what is called a shall handle obligation in our implementation guides and try and describe that in plain language that we can all understand as humans, not just as computers, so that we can actually try and articulate that in a friendly manner in the implementation guide in a way that when people are implementing this, they actually know what it means. So that's going to be a very fun, interesting breakout session, I'm sure. After morning tea, we've got another session, a breakout, which is the hot topics session, and I'll go into more details around that. Day two is a little bit more straightforward. Again, we kick off at 8:39, and then we just do a lot of testing and connecting in the morning. After lunch, what we do is start to prepare for demonstrations and report out. We've got a couple of helpers as well as Ricardo and Tim and I coming around having a chat with you to see if you've done something of interest that you might want to share with the other tracks at the end of the day as a demonstration. And also we provide a bit of a summary of what we've been able to achieve as a track overall, how much of the additional areas of interest of the test area testing that we're looking to succeed on to progress our maturity. And then after afternoon tea, we've got those demonstrations and report outs from all of the tracks, and we wrap up by 4 o'clock. I think I've already mentioned the breakout sessions here, so I'll skip over that a little bit, except for the second one. So a couple of the agenda items that I've got on the hot topics at the moment is around generating an access of a patient summary. So there's a particular page in the IG at the moment that it has that title, and we're just going to step through that and get some feedback around the options that are putting in there. Nothing's normative at the moment, so we're just sort of gathering information and experiences around this. And as we do that, we're hoping to refine that page a little bit more. So there might be some options that we put up as a straw man initially that um, we cut out, or there might be some additional options that we add in, or perhaps refine a little bit more the some of the options that already exist there. So that's going to run for about 30 minutes. At the last TDG Day in Canberra. It's now last month, in November. So we had a session of hot topics where we talked about handling and consuming patient summaries. So we want to have the opportunity to continue that conversation, probably more of a socialization of what we talked about at the last one, and some of the candidate areas of documenting the expectations of systems when they're handling or consuming patient summaries as a consumer. So have a bit of a look at that area as well. So we've got both sides of producing and consuming. And I guess as one of the top outcomes of the meeting that we had in um, Canberra was a motion was passed that we need a clear way of identifying an AU patient summary in independent compared to one that is not an AU patient summary. In other words, an IPS that's come from overseas, so that we can then apply it to those expectations that we'll talk about in the second dot point. So we've got a bit of a conversation happening on the chat.fire.org at the moment around those options that Graham put up, and we're just trying to get through to the point where of actually deciding on an approach. Again, this will not be any sort of decision being made. It's more about just getting more people across what the options are, and so that we can and get feedback from people, and so that we can perhaps progress that in a future patient summary call. There's a track page, which pretty much has on Confluence, which pretty much has all the same details that I'm presenting in this PowerPoint, including things like the roles and testing data and the like. So if you need information after this, you can go to that track page. There, we've also got the implementation guide. So if we just go to AUPS at the moment, we've got a CI build of 050, but there will actually be a preview snapshot finalized this week, I believe. So that just keep an eye out for the announcements on Zilip or chat.fire around that. But that is certainly coming. Is that what it's actually going to be called, Brett? Is it going to be a 050 preview or is it going to be a 060?
That's a good question. I'm gonna ask this.
Gonna be 050
It,
preview, and yeah, we
Yeah, there you
plan
go.
to publish on Wednesday. So should be available Wednesday night or Thursday morning, the latest.
okay, great. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, so if you're preparing to come along, what do you need to do? If you've got a product that you're already developed or in development that's acting either as a producer of a patient summary or a consumer. So if these terms are not unfamiliar to you, you can go to the implementation guide and see how these are actually defined. But basically, we're talking about a producer as a system that's creating a patient summary, and a consumer is one that's retrieving them and doing something with them. We're bring just to so that you don't wasting too much time on Tuesday, Wednesday, getting yourself set up. If you can get yourself a technical environment on a laptop um, or if you need servers and the like, then make sure that they're able to be accessed by others remotely. So you might need to get it up into the cloud somehow. Um, and if you're a server in particular, other consumers are a little bit more forgiving. But yeah, just make sure that you're able to be able to work with others that are perhaps working in the cloud. We will just be working off a Wi-Fi network within the venue, so there'll be no sort of easy ways of connecting directly from laptop to laptop within the rooms. So yeah, that's just something that you need to be aware of. We've got some test scenarios that we've prepared on the track page. So this is the main sort of details about things. But if we do get down to test scenarios, there's a link here that you can go to. That goes specifically to scenario one, but there's an entire page here of information. So it goes through a couple of scenarios. For scenario one, scenario two, and scenario three. But in summary, what they are, where'd my screen go? So it's basically scenario one is a fire server that's acting as a AUPS producer that generates a patient summary. And we're just looking for your server to generate it, and we'll make a means to be able to validate that using Inferno, and potentially another system might be able to pick that up and view it in their environment. So that's a really good test, not just that it's valid against the implementation guide, but another system can actually view it. Scenario two is more an app acting as a producer. So, and not just a file server, but an app is actually retrieving individual parts of a patient's record from a file server as perhaps AU core resources. So a set of allergies, a set of medications, and then from that they compose that into a patient summary. So whether that's being done automatically or whether it's through some sort of curation process, but obviously some sort of application user interface that can create a patient summary. And again, we would like to validate the output of that and potentially hand that over to another system to view it. And finally, scenario 3 is an application that's acting as a consumer that's accessing a patient summary. And so that's the other part of this story here, is that we actually an application that may be able to locate and retrieve a patient summary or just view it. And perhaps there might be some systems out there that are starting to think about actually importing some of the data from that patient summary into their databases as well, and display it in the context of their normal clinical workflows. So all of those are basically come under one of those 3 scenarios at this time. Any questions about scenarios? No?
Just one question, if I may. You talk about the Inferno validation server. That's the one that we've talked about on the fire chat in the last week or so, the Spark one, or is there another one?
I'm not aware of any chat. Maybe I've missed something, but I'll give you a link in a moment, David.
Okay.
So, and it's on that track page, the link as well. So,
Okay.
so if you are participants, and obviously you're here, so you're certainly intending to be a participant. If you haven't already, if you can go off to this page or navigate to it from the track page that I showed previously, I think there is a participants link here. It is actually across here, a sibling page. We've got a couple of people there, including David, who has set up his system and with some details about what it actually is. So what you're looking to test. Just need your contact details if we can, so that other people that want to connect to you know who to talk to, and whether you're a client or a server. And if you've got some authorization requirements there, you can list it. Probably don't want to put too many credentials up here at this point in time, but just some sort of indication of that there will need to be some credentials, whether you're using Smart App Launch capabilities or whether it's just a standard OAuth or basic authentication. So connection, details, whether you've got a Fire API as an example, what is your base URL for your Fire server? Sorry. Okay. It's probably not explicit on here, but probably under the area of testing focus or product type, if you can just indicate whether you're a producer or a consumer. So as I kind of outlined, it's not just clients and servers. We can actually have clients that are or apps that are producers and apps that are consumers. So I'm actually more interested in not so much whether you're a client or server. I mean, if you are a server, that's good to know. I'm more interested in whether you're a producer or a consumer, but there is the 2 aspects really around that. In general, I think I've gone over this as well, but some of the things that we'd like to get out as an outcome of these sessions is, your experience around generating. So how did you initiate the generation of a patient summary? How did you initiate the sharing of the information? How did you locate a patient summary? How did you retrieve your patient summary, and how did you view it? So we're just, I'm not using any particular formal language around this because we're just really getting your experiences on what has worked. There are some sort of options, as I indicated previously, on how to generate, etc. But if you've got other suggestions on how the things can work as well, then it's worth considering as part of this sequence. with the testing tools, we do have the Inferno test kit. So effectively, it is inferno.hl7.org.au. So that's where you can start. There is a direct link here, which is /testkits AUPS, but you can navigate there. Let me see. Why is that not working? Here we go. You can actually just go back to, as I said, the inferno.hl7.org, and you can click on the Start Testing button to go off to either AU Core or PS. And that direct link goes straight into the test kit here, and then you can start testing by creating a test session. And this is going to get updated during the week as well, with some additional options. This is the version that we had ready for August, where there was only one option. Well, there was one option or one test case with many options, but we're going to have many test cases with some options. So, as an example, you can paste a an instance serves a JSON payload in this bundle resource, and then click the submit button down the bottom. If you need credentials, because you're actually going to provide a file server, so you may be using a $summary URL and with some credentials, then you can enter those in as well, along with a patient ID or a patient identifier.
Keith, does that support the $validate operation? Like you call it from within another app?
So that Inferno doesn't, no. So,
Okay,
but it does the validate for
right.
you. So when you actually run that, it will actually do the validation against the implementation guide for you and present the
Yeah,
errors nicely.
right. But you have to, yeah, I see. Like my specific scenario is if I've got the bundle, it'd be quite nice to just be able to call it directly using $validate. But that's
Yep.
fine. I'll work
Okay.
around that.
No. You don't
Yeah.
need to work around it because there's another option for that.
Oh,
Get my slides back up. Oh, I don't actually have it here. So let me go back to we've got a server here somewhere on the page. We've got Kyle on the screen, but that same server does support the $validate. So that's the chat that we were having last week. So that sparked server,
okay, because that's the one I'm currently using.
yeah. So that does
I've just pasted it
support.
in.
Oh, this is the one here, right? So this actually does support the $validate.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah,
All
noticed
right.
that.
So that's the file server. I think I'm about to go into that at the moment. So that there are AU core examples that you can use for scenario 2 from that server. So
Yeah.
if you are an app, you can pull the do a query for allergies, a query for medication statements, and then you can compose your patient summary. So that server there is quite useful. Alternatives to using Inferno is to actually create the fire validator or get the fire validator command line utility on your local machine. That takes a bit of work, but there is a guide on how to do that. My recommendation is certainly to play with Inferno. It's a really nice user interface, and easy to use. Sorry for bumping around there. There is a whole heap of examples in the implementation guide itself. That you can download. So there's a few here. There's a basic summary. There's a much more grander patient summary, some with no known medications and allergies and the like. So we've basically with a small set of examples here, we've got pretty good coverage of test data, and you can sort of get it in XML or JSON form, and if you need it in a raw form, then you can sort of go through there. So that's all through that implementation guide aspect there. If you want some useful examples, now that goes through the validator and those as part of the publishing of the implementation guide. So they're well formed examples for you to get to started with. There is a couple of IPS viewers that might be of use as well. So once you generated a viewer, generated your patient summary, you can paste it into this tool. So ipsviewer.com, paste it in here, and I really should have had an example. Actually, I do have an example now that I've traversed through there as an example, so I can just paste that in there. Whoop, I did press the wrong button. Press submit. It gives you a bit of a summary of what's in there, and then it also gives you a rendering of the data in the patient summary. There's actually two ways of viewing this up here. So this is actually viewing the patient summary using the entries within it, and you can change it to use the narrative text alone. And so this is the actual text that's actually added into the section.txt areas. So that's a useful tool to have a look at. And the other example I've got here is effectively just a rebranding, or not a rebranding, a reskinning, if you like, of the same viewer, which is the Washington State viewer in here as well. So, but this has additional capability, I believe. It's been a while since I looked at it around smart health links and the like as well. So there might be some extra functionality that might be useful in that case. Okay, so test up we're going to use the chat.fire for just communication during the day. So if you haven't already got a chat.fire.org account, please do so. It's free to sign on, but it will be the way that we'll be communicating leading up to the track and during the track. So this is the announcement of the track here already. You can see we're sitting under an Australian channel, and there's other tracks like the requesting one here as well in the AU core track conversation. So we're all going to be working out of Zulip, so it's worth getting in an account so that you can keep up to date with what's going on there. And you can ask questions or ask for access keys and all those sorts of things through that channel. Obviously, it is public, so you don't want to be sharing any sort of private information, but anything that you're willing to get out into the big bad world, you're welcome to do so. So just to finalize, I'd just like to continue that Minty a little bit more, just to start to, I guess, get a bit of feedback from you guys about what you're wanting to achieve. So what kind of system have you got that you're going to bring along to the Connectathon? And again, keeping in mind, thinking in what I talked about with those scenarios, whether you've got an app that's producing a patient summary, an app that's consuming a patient summary, or it's just a file server that's able to produce a file server. And yes, on the right-hand side, if you just come and have a look, well, that's good as well. But if you've got some other interesting scenario that doesn't naturally fit into the two or the three scenarios, that's good. And I'm gonna ask those that have put other what we're actually talking about. So just so that we're got a little bit of a heads up on what you're planning to do and what you're planning to bring along and how we might be able to work with you in that space. So perhaps the two that have said other, if you want to describe what you're bringing along.
There's one in the chat from Charles Heath.
Smart Health Links. Okay.
And I was the other. I think I think we could fit in the first one as a bit of a definition, but at the same time, so we're bringing an endpoint that simulates the My Health record, providing information that can be used to curate a patient summary. So it doesn't fit 100% into that first definition. It kind of does, but it doesn't. So that's why we put in the other. So we're not saying we will produce an AUPS. We might provide information that's conformant to the AUPS specification. So slightly different, but kind of the same. So yeah.
Thank you. And I guess just to elaborate on Charles's, I mean, Charles, unless you want to, won't you elaborate on what you meant by Smart Health Links services for those that are not familiar with what that means?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the chance. So we had the last Connectathon in Brisbane. We've demonstrated an API service that anybody can use as a backend service to provide an AUPS bundle and generate a smart health link, which can, if optionally, you can provide a viewer URL as well to that API, and that will be encoded in the smart health link so that you can then point that link to your viewer. And if you don't have a viewer, then you can use our patient summary viewer by default. But it's more than just the link generator, because we are also hosting the manifest file that goes into the smart health link, and the authentication around the passcode, or various other things, including audit trail or logging of has it been opened, how many times has it expired. The link expiry is an optional thing. So there's some additional value add services as well, not just the generation of the link.
Thanks, Charles. Okay, so next one is what sort of generation and access capabilities does your support? So there are some documented means of doing this. So one's called dollar summary, another one that's docref. We've got our standard fire interactions. So seeing that an IPS or our patient summary is actually a bundle or a of type document. We can do search and read interactions on those. And as Charles has talked about there, we've got some smart health links as another means of exchanging patient summaries. And again, the person that is put their other, would David.
One step ahead.
So direct Jason pasting. Okay. Is there any more coming? Maybe that's the only. Yep. Okay, cool. Give it a little bit more time before we move on to almost the next slide, last slide. So lots of dollar summaries. Bundle read. Okay. All right. What would you like to get out of the AU core? And rather than just typing it in, I'm more than happy just to have a general chat for the last 4 minutes of the session. If you've got something that you want to share or explicitly stated, it's easier to just use voice. Happy to have a conversation with you. I'll hear from you. We've got a few new names on the call. Maybe a lot of us know each other already, but Stephen and Ian, I'll give you a little bit of notice. but it would be great if you would like to introduce yourselves.
G'day, Heath. You might know me from the Brisbane one. Work with Charles.
Yep, yep. You look familiar now. Now that I see the face.
All right, I'll drop by.
Thanks, Stephen. Ian,
Oh, Ian Bull, I'm from ACT
yep, you look
Health.
familiar now too.
Thank you.
And you're just coming to observe, Ian, or
Well, I'm on standby. Yeah.
yep, okay. So anything in particular you're looking to get out of the track if you
I,
get to attend?
I only the consuming and linking, connecting to the server, and just observing and participating in the other discussions around.
Yep, excellent. Anyone else want to have anything to say about what they would like to achieve, Landon, Tarek?
Oh, sorry, I'll show my camera. Don't know if my camera's on. So
It is.
for best practice, we use this as often as an opportunity to do sort of Inferno testing and to resolve a number of errors because usually we're just busy developing things for the product team. So this is a good chance to double check that we are compliant and we love to run an Inferno test and try to fix up any issues we find and connect to others. Cool, that's me. Thanks.
David, did you want to have a bit more of elaborate on a bit more on what you're bringing along and looking to achieve?
Sure. I mean, I was the improve the display of IP, should have been IPS. So I've got my ClinFire tooling, which has always been able to display bundles. So I'm just looking to make it better aware of IPS type documents, to be able to display them, validate them, look inside them. It's a fairly technical process, but yeah, basically just wanting to make that a bit better.
And for those on the call, do you want to just describe what your ClinFire tooling is intended for?
Oh, sure. So ClinFire is a tool I suppose, started developing about 10 years ago when fire was just taking off. And the issue was that clinical folk didn't really sort of, or couldn't get an idea of what we were talking about. So it was always intended to try and help people understand fire and to be able to sort of look inside it, as it were. And so it's got about 6 different modules now, of which the bundle visualizer is one. But there are others that let you look at patient records and design a graph or build a form with that kind of stuff. So really, as I say, this is for me, this is an opportunity to just make it a little bit better and let people be aware that it's there and get feedback myself.
Yeah. And Mark, I'm not sure how long you've been on the call, but it seemed like you popped in late-ish. Did you want to introduce yourself and perhaps any description of what you're looking to do at the call, at the track, if you're coming?
Thanks, Heath. Yeah, late start this morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, look, our involvement in the IPS is understanding what it's all about. We've been in and out of this for probably 12 months. So I think what's happening at the moment is I guess a more disciplined approach to this. I want to see where it goes. We're doing some stuff, I guess, the way we talk about it is being on the other side of the firewall. So we're not on the clinical side, we're on the other side. But having an IPS available to us is very useful. So yeah, we're just looking at how it matures and probably taking some of the best practice from it. So good morning, all. Well, good afternoon. I'm in Perth.
Okay. And what organisation are you from?
Future Wellness Group.
Sorry?
Future Wellness Group.
Future Wellness Group. So you're a healthcare provider?
Yeah, we're a healthcare developer based
Right.
in a couple of different places, mainly in Melbourne.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I don't know if Tim or Ricardo, you got any closing remarks, but pretty much
Nothing from me, Heath. I think just looking forward to it. So I'm hoping it will be a great day and an opportunity to share a lot of good knowledge. So. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, same here. And good to see some familiar faces. I haven't seen David Hay in a long, long time, maybe 10 years ago when you were at Orion.
Well, it's going back a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Back
be
in the
wearing a
day.
red carnation in my lapel so you can recognize me.
All right. I'll try and swoon you there at the event on
Yeah,
in
definitely
December.
look forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, and being at the Digital Health Agency and the My Health Record, I think it'll be quite good to know how the implementation sort of comes out and what we can do within the legislative barriers within Australia, and to see this propagate more. So understanding the different elements of what's inside the patient summary. What I think one conversation I had offline this week was how far down the sharing do you go in terms of all the level of information? Like if you take medications, what does that? How do you bring that together and to give provenance or to give context? And so I think some of that stuff could be well worth talking about as well. But yeah, I think this getting exciting.
All right, well, we've taken you over time, so thank you very much for your time, and we really look forward to catching up with you in the flesh in a week's time. And if there's any questions in the meantime, jump onto the Zulip chat.org, chat.fire.org conversation for AUPS and ask a question. Otherwise, we'll see you in a week and a bit.
Thanks,
Everybody.
all.
Excellent.
Good job, Keith.
See you on the other side.
Thanks,
All
Heath.
right.